Brandon Alcoholic. You guys hear me okay?
Yes.
All right, hell yeah. Sorry for the mix-up with the format, but Patch took care of it. Thanks, buddy. So let's see here. Let's qualify first. Brandon Alcoholic. My sobriety date is September 19th, 2008. I've had two sponsors. Tom was my most recent sponsor, and I'm in the market still since moving to Washington State a few months ago for a new sponsor. I've gotten pretty well plugged in up here. There's a couple guys that I'm thinking about asking, so stay tuned for that. But let's backtrack here. My first drink, I was in junior high, and I was hanging out with a buddy who had an older brother, and he had a pack of Marlboro Reds and a bunch of tall Budweiser cans. And I didn't know anything about either one. I just wanted to be cool like his older brother, who was listening to Sublime at the time, and that's, that was it. So that was my introduction to smoking and drinking and being a knucklehead. I don't want to spend too much time, talking about what it was like. You guys all know what it was like. It was fun, and then it wasn't, and then it was fucked up. I'll share with you one kind of bad story though, because I never hear a lot of the really negative stuff shared, and I always identify with that stuff, maybe because I did a lot of it. It was towards the end before I got sober. I was probably about 20 years old, and I had just pawned a bunch of my parents' jewelry to pay for dope. And I took the baking tray up to my room, and I was crushing up a bunch of stuff, and my mom comes into my room, and she's like, "What the hell's going on?" And she just looks at me, and she starts sobbing, and then she turns around and walks out. And, I'm confronted with this moment of oh my God, I really just did that to get loaded. And then now she's like that. And as soon as she closed the door, I went right back to doing what I was doing. I felt bad until I got loaded, and then I didn't feel anything. So, the point of me sharing that particular story is I didn't cause a lot of damage to a lot of people or places, but I really hurt the people that were the closest to me a lot. And the reason I think today, after having worked the steps a couple times, is that I'm a coward, because I live in 1,000 forms of fear. And it felt easier to, screw over the people closest to me than it did to mess with a bunch of strangers. So that was kind of my pattern, man. Just causing wreckage, ruining family business, finances, and ruining all kinds of college things that I tried, and you name it, and I messed it up, and all for the sake of getting loaded. Again, because I'm afraid and I'm selfish, and I don't know how to exist without getting loaded. So fast track a little bit. My dad, who's nice enough to join us on Zoom tonight. What's up, Pops? Him and I we were working at a mattress store together, and I was on my third day of trying to self-detox off of dope for a couple years prior, which I don't recommend. Go to a doctor. And I walked into the store, and I was just so messed up, man. I was so agitated. It's probably day 2, I think, off the dope, and my dad said something that I didn't particularly agree with, and so I swiped all the stuff off his desk and called him a fat piece of shit, and we got into a fight. And I mean, we've gotten into fights before, but never actual fight, and that was the first one. And what ended up happening was we ended up on the ground, kind of wedged in between two mattresses. We sold mattresses, and I shit you not, my arm came back like this, and I was gonna punch him, and it felt like something from behind me grabbed my wrist and stopped me. And in that moment, I now know it was my moment of clarity. What happened was my higher power allowed me for just a second to see the situation through my dad's eyes. And, I'm not breaking his anonymity. He's here with us. I knew that in that moment, how he felt as a fellow alcoholic, but also as my father. And it was fear, but it wasn't fear over the situation. It was fear of, here's my oldest son, who's walking the same footsteps that I did, and is probably going to end up dead in a gutter somewhere, and I can't do anything about it. And so I was blessed with that moment, and And it gave me just enough willingness to agree to go to an outpatient program, because I wasn't sick enough for like actual rehab or anything. So I made it about 40 days, something like this, 44 days in the outpatient program, because I'm only 21 at this point. Before I told myself that my problem was the dope, not the booze. I had just turned 21. How could booze possibly be my problem? Well, yeah, it only took a couple days and I was back in the closet doing dope. So it's all the same for me. I identify as an alcoholic because these are the steps that I worked when I got sober. But if you identify as an alcoholic or an alcoholic and an addict, it don't matter, man. Just keep coming back. It's all the same shit. So, I rode that for a couple more months and then I just hit a wall, man. I was done. I agreed to go to rehab at that point, so I went out to Riverside, to Whiteside Manor, spent 60 days there. While I was there, I met my first sponsor, Anthony G. from Riverside, and part of like leaving the rehab honorably was getting through your first 4 steps. And so not because I wanted to do the steps at all, not because I wanted to change, but because I wanted the pat on the ass from the people at the rehab. Like, hey, Brandon, good job. I wanted the other guys around me in rehab to be like, hey, Brandon, good job. You're such a leader. Because I need your validation, because I'm so filled with like, self-loathing and fear and inadequacy that I need that shit. And so, fortunately, because of the way the steps are written and because of men like yourselves in meetings like this, it didn't matter what my motivation for doing the steps was. The fact is that I did them, and I did them with the amount of honesty that I could at the time, and the change started to happen. I didn't see it, I didn't recognize it until much later down the road, but things started to change. My life changed. I got introduced to a higher power that continues to evolve and change 13 years later. I came in here with all these reservations because you guys said the word God, and I grew up in the church and I wanted nothing to do with that shit. But that's the beautiful thing about Alcoholics Anonymous is I have the freedom to gravitate towards whatever higher power I need to. Let's see here. So once I got out of sober living, I got really plugged into young people AA. Again, I was in my early 20s when I got sober. So I love, like, the cornerstone of my recovery has always been men's stags. But where I found myself the most useful to other people was in young people meetings, right? Because for the most part, except for you, fucking Greg, I love you. An older guy isn't going to come up to me when I'm 22 and ask me to sponsor him, right? So I found that I was able to be of service the most in young people meetings. So I spent most of the first, 4 or 5 years sober doing that. We put on, conventions, and we did like sober dances and like casino nights and all sorts of really fun stuff. Because that's one of the concerns, right? When you get sober young is like, what the hell do I do now for fun? Like everything that I've ever done for fun, I've gotten loaded doing. I have no idea what to do now. But it's there, man. The resources are there. There's tons of stuff. And, the old guys in this meeting are some fun too. So maybe hang out with them too. Let's see here. So fast track a couple years. I met my wife. We had a kid. We got married. Everything was going great. My career was just skyrocketing. But what happened? Let's see. I was probably about 6 or 7 years sober at this point. What happened was I got really complacent. Again, like family, right? Booming career. I felt I was in control. And so little by little, I stopped going to meetings altogether eventually because I felt that what AA taught me was to be a present husband and father. And so, we've got a newborn or a 1-year-old or whatever, and my job's crazy. And so I thought being home to help with the little one was the responsible thing to do, not go to a meeting. I do a men's retreat, very similar to the one Patch is always talking about, twice a year. And so for about 2.5 years, the only AA I got was that men's retreat twice a year. and for those of you that have done retreats, the time in between can feel like a long time. So all that to say, I had what we affectionately refer to as an emotional relapse. And basically what that means is I was as sick, if not more sick, than I was ever before I got sober the first time physically. I was selfish, I was filled with fear, and I had no idea that it was there because I'm, masquerading around in this veil of success, and I didn't realize that fear was what was driving everything that I was doing. And so long story short there, I had an affair. It's one of those things on the list that, like, we promise ourselves we're never going to do. Oh, I'm not that kind of dude. I would never do that. I'm faithful. No. I'm one missed meeting away from being the worst version of myself I can be. Let's see. Affair. So that kind of turned my life upside down at that point, for the positive, actually, which is weird saying that after an affair. But what it did was it got me re-plugged into Alcoholics Anonymous, the thing that had been missing from my life for the last couple of years. And unfortunately, I got my wife into Al-Anon, so now I can never get away with anything again. But no, it's good, man. Now, we got a 12-step family now, and I wouldn't have it any other way. It's a beautiful gift. My grandpa used to identify in meetings as Bernie, the lucky alcoholic, and I never understood why he would say lucky alcoholic. That seems crazy to me. Like, I'm not lucky to have this, but now I get it, right? We're blessed with a spiritual toolkit that normal people don't get. Normal people don't necessarily take like deep looks internally and find out like who they are and why they do what they do, and seek a connection with a higher power and be of service to their fellows. Like, we get that being in Alcoholics Anonymous. That's the best possible life that I could possibly imagine for myself or for anybody in that room right now. And we're given that shit free, absolutely free. All you got to do is just keep showing up. So around that time, a few years back, I came into this meeting, and you guys welcomed me with open arms. I was scared shitless to say that, I had messed up, and, I'm here because I got caught, and I haven't been to a meeting in 2.5 years. And I think the first guy I said that to just laughed at me, and I'm like, oh, yeah, this is what this is like. I forgot. and I felt at home instantly, so thank you guys for that. And then, I've absolutely cherished the last few years with you guys. It's been, for sure the best portion of my sobriety so far. So thank you guys for sharing that with me. And, you know who you are in that room. You guys mean a lot to me. Tom, thank you so much for, walking with me and guiding me, and Patch for being there to answer the phone whenever, and, fucking Greg for making me laugh constantly. And, I could just spend the rest of the time name dropping people in that room. But I love all of you guys, and I miss you guys. We moved up to Washington State a few months ago, and, it's hard, man. I've lived in Southern California my whole life, and this was like the biggest leap that I've ever taken. And it's scary, and it's new, and, you feel like disconnected, and one thing changed all of that instantly. And it was finding the closest meeting to my house and going to it. And I went to it, and it doesn't matter that I'm 1,400 miles away from where I spent the last 34 years of my life. I felt instantly at home up here. Instantly at home. And, I've heard it said that that's true no matter where the meeting is. It could be in Sri Lanka, it could be in Alaska, it could be in SoCal. Like, meetings of Alcoholics Anonymous are home for me, and I hope that if you're new to the rooms, like, let's see, who do we got here? Brian, or Victor with his 60 days, or I couldn't tell if it was Tony or Johnny or Stony for 90 days. Keep coming back, fellas. This is home. You're not going to find a better deal than this. We talk about the promises in AA, and they will all come true. You got to do a couple things, though. This is for you, Patch. You got to do a couple things though. Hold on, bear with me. This is all I got for now, but it'll work.
Yeah.
You gotta do these things, man. You gotta do these. This is it right here. This is the program. Hanging out in the room is awesome, and the fellowship is wonderful, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. But the steps are Alcoholics Anonymous. So here's what you do. I'm gonna lay it out real simple, just the way that someone had to lay it out for me, because I want to complicate everything, and it's really fucking simple. Get a big book. Don't worry about money. They will give you one. Just get a big book. Do not leave that meeting tonight without a book of Alcoholics Anonymous. Get a sponsor. That sounds intimidating, but really it's just a teacher. They're just going to take you through that book that's going to teach you how to live. And that's it, man. That's it. You get a book, you get a sponsor, you'll start working on your steps out of that book, and your life will fucking change. At least it did for me. So I miss you guys a lot. I love you guys so much. Thanks for celebrating my birthday. Happy birthday, Albert. 3 years, dude. That's fucking awesome. Batch, you've been sober as long as I've been alive, and I love you so much for it. So, thanks. Thanks, guys.